In this video, I am attempting a couple of things. Firstly, you see me working on a shirt that is kind of a walking advertisement for a short film I was preparing for in March. So if you haven't already seen the behind the scenes for my Shulamite release party, please go ahead and watch that. This shirt was just a way to help me raise some money for part 2 of the short film I created in tandem with releasing Shulamite, a comb set I made. And the way I went about it was really quick. I took a Sharpie marker to a white tank top and wrote "Ask me about my short film." And now I'm just cutting out those letters and I'm gonna sew them on a bit later. Throughout the rest of this video, I will be attempting batik printing for the first time, as well as using coffee grounds to dye a couple of white tees, like brown tan color. So the materials that I used are just some old candle wax chunks, if you will, and I also used a big bag of coffee grounds, I'd say over a cup or so, some water, and then of course, as I mentioned, the Sharpie, some scissors, a white tank top. I sewed that onto a black tank top using needle and thread, and everything else I used is, for the batik, I made a double broiler sort of situation using a tub to hold the candle wax with a pot of boiling water underneath it, as well as a pot and water for the coffee grounds. So this was a full day process, and it was honestly so much fun getting to hang out with my friend, and she also tie-dyed some shoes while I was there. I wound up tie-dyeing a shirt, and we'll get more into that later on in the video. This was just sort of an intro to what's going on. I hope you all enjoy.
Was it looking? Oh. Between your lips, reach the air surrounding my eardrums. I'm already knowing where you was going. I'm already knowing where you was going. With all this petty commentary, you sprinkle like parsley in the meat of my explanations. It was no surprise to me. Nothing from today was a shock to me.
After melting the wax, I used a paintbrush to draw a pattern onto my long sleeve cropped white shirt. However, I quickly realized it wasn't melted enough. It wasn't at a stable heating point. So I decided to keep going back to the kitchen to try and melt it and move quickly back into the art room. However, that wasn't working either. So eventually I just took what I could get almost in a way, and I did end up spending some time in the kitchen drawing patterns on there as well, using the paintbrush still. In the future, I would like to use a sponge and cut out designs beforehand instead of trying to freehand some illustration. wound up coming up with is actually a woman holding a baby. I've done this piece before using clay, and I like that that's a common intuitive shape I fall into. I think it represents somebody mothering their inner child, as well as just the act of motherhood and a child with their mom. I like that connection a lot, and I think just on a level that is hard to explain, it's comes up for me a lot. I could throw in astrology and numerology into this conversation as well, but I won't. It's just cool that art reflects you. Your art reflects you. I'll say that. I let the shirts hang on the shower rod overnight, and because the next day I had to go home, I wound up throwing it in the dryer. However, I naively threw them in the dryer with my tie-dye creations. So the end result of the shirts is not brown whatsoever, and I'm not gonna lie, it didn't even dry brown regardless, because it really dried more tan and a muted gray, so I would have had to redo with coffee grounds anyway. Here's the tie-dye shirt that took over the entire production, and here is the somewhat final look of the graphic tee. I dyed with the coffee grounds as well as accidentally dyed with the tie-dye. The long sleeve cropped shirt I haven't worn yet. It's really in a box of clothes materials. I plan on really upcycling it and turning it into something else altogether instead of trying to wear that in my closet any longer. I think for this graphic tee, I'll do another round of coffee grounds and see what that turns the blue and green specks into. The quote on the shirt though is "see the good in all things," and I feel like this experiment is helping me do that.